A reminder of the top stories on Al Jazeera. The U.S. President, Barack Obama, has condemned violence in Libya, calling it outrageous and acceptable. In a strongly worded statement, Obama said the Libyan government must be held responsible for failing to respect the rights of its people. There are reports the first western city of Misrata is under control of protesters in Libya. According to a witness, 6 people were killed and 200 injured in the city, which lies about 120 kilometers west of the capital, Tripoli. With the pressure rising, Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam, has called on Libyans to come together to fight in what he called a national battle. Saif said the main trouble was in the eastern parts of the country. In other news, New Zealand's member of police, in fact, says 76 people are dead following Tuesday's devastating earthquake. The rescue efforts are ongoing, but chances of finding more survivors are dwindling. Our correspondent, Andrew Thomas, is joining us live from Christchurch on the telephone. Andrew, how are rescue efforts going?
Very slowly, and with every passing hour, the chance of finding further survivors diminishes. We are just in the middle of a press conference where they're updating the many journalists from all over the world who are here now on the latest on the rescue attempts. They have confirmed, as you said, that 76 bodies are now being held in their mortuary, and there has been no sign of any further life underneath the rubble this morning, Thursday morning, here in Christchurch. At the same time, they are still trying to recover bodies from some of the most devastated buildings. The AFP agency is reporting that 47 Japanese students were inside their language school, inside one of the buildings that collapsed in the centre of town. The Japanese government has sent a specialist urban rescue team to go over that, but at the moment, that's the only team working on that site, because the New Zealand rescuers are concentrating on other sites where there is still just the slimmest of chances there may still be survivors underneath the rubble. But at the moment, I'm afraid, it is looking, there are more recovery of bodies than there are finding of survivors.
So rescuers then not optimistic that they'll find any more survivors, is what you're saying. What sort of international support is being made available to New Zealand?
The international support is flying in from all over the world. Obviously, depending on where those countries are, the longer it takes to get here. There are already lots of Japanese search and rescue teams here. Christchurch was a popular destination for English language students from Asia, particularly from Japan. So the Japanese government very concerned that lots of their citizens are affected by this quake. The rescue teams have come in lots from Australia, from the UK, from the US, and they're also coming in from Asian countries apart from Japan as well. Malaysia, for one, has sent in teams too. So lots of help New Zealand is getting. They're asking for it, and there are lots and lots of rescuers crawling over this rubble now. The trouble here at the moment are the aftershocks. There are more than 21 that have been this morning alone in Christchurch, and that brings the risk that buildings could come tumbling down on the rescuers. So everywhere they go, they have to tread very carefully.
All right, Andrew Thomas, thank you. Well, Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah has promised $10.7 billion in pay rises, job creation, as well as leniency on loans. He made the announcement as he returned home after spending 3 months abroad for medical treatment. The new development fund is being set up to help struggling Saudis buy homes, get married, and start businesses. At least 4 people have been injured after a fire broke out near the Egyptian Interior Ministry building in Cairo. Rescue teams were rushed to the building, which houses criminal records and other personal files. Now, the fire was started by suspended police officers demanding reinstatement. They threw firebombs at a building next to the Interior Ministry. And Egypt's new cabinet has met for the first time on Wednesday, with security and food supplies topping the agenda. The cabinet also discussed the situation in Libya and evacuation of Egyptians from the country. It's been under attack from the Muslim Brotherhood and others who want it purged of ministers appointed by the former President Hosni Mubarak. Hundreds of protesters in Bahrain are vowing to continue demonstrations, and that's despite the government agreeing to pardon dozens of political prisoners. At least 50 were released on Tuesday, including 25 Shia activists accused of plotting against the state. The island nation's King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa has renewed an appeal for dialogue. Opposition groups are demanding the release of all the political prisoners before beginning negotiations with the government. 7 people have been injured during clashes in the Greek capital, Athens. During the demonstration, a policeman was set on fire. Now, this video shows other officers rushing to his aid as he tried to put out the fire. The clashes took place as tens of thousands of people protested against austerity measures. Protesters also hurled rocks at the security forces, who responded then with tear gas. At least 4 people have been arrested there in Athens. Well, a year after entering the Swat Valley, Pakistan's army has begun to scale down its operations in the region. But the big challenge now is how to rehabilitate some of the men who were once considered the enemy. Here's Kamal Haidar.
For the first time since the army started its de-radicalization program, we're allowed to visit one of the detention centers. To an outsider, this may look like a lecture room at a college or university. But this is the Mishal or Beacon program, helping detainees to reintegrate into mainstream society. Not long ago, these men had taken up arms against the military, but now under watchful eyes, they were being retrained in a relatively free environment. Each detainee is carefully screened before being selected for vocational training. We talked to one of the psychiatrists to find out what he feels may make the difference.
I see them very energetic and very active in the participation. And on account of rehabilitation and account of repeated assessments, I found out that they have very high motivation to go back into the society and become a more useful part than they used to be.
The Swati Taliban were able to recruit people who came from poor sections of society, unskilled laborers and farmers. The military therefore thought that in order to de-radicalize them, they must be given vocational training so they can become useful members of their society. Talking to some of the detainees in a casual and open environment, we asked what they feel about the program.
It's a very useful training program for us by the military, which have put us into a right direction. And after completion of courses, we would be able to serve into the society and spend a better life.
Some of the skills they acquire here may help them find suitable employment when they're released. From computers, carpentry, welding to motor mechanics. After visiting Mishal, we head into Khwaza Khela to meet Javed Khan, a former detainee now trained as a welder. He helps his nephews run a car yard. Javed's is a success story, and while there are signs of cautious optimism, back at Mishal, the real test will come when